Welcome to Meet the Candidate with your host, Sue Lonnie Madsen. Meet the Candidate is your opportunity to see local candidates and hear about the experiences that have shaped their lives. Meet the Candidate is a nonpartisan community project brought to you by our friends at Greater Spokane Incorporated, Ponderosa Republican Women's Club, We Believe, We Vote, and Better Spokane. Now, here's Sue Lonnie.
Well, welcome to this session of Meet the Candidate, and my guest this morning is Susan Hutchison here in the studio in Spokane. Susan is running for U.S. Senate, and welcome, Susan.
Thank you, Silani. It's great to be with you.
Well, and this is an opportunity for people just to get to know you as a person instead of just as a candidate. I always start with, where did you grow up and go to school?
Well, it's hard to claim a home when you're a military kid.
Well, we've had a number of military kids on the program.
So I was born in California, but I went to, believe it or not, between K and 12th grade, I went to 10 different schools. And so Alabama, New York, Virginia, Florida, and even when I was in college, my parents were in Ohio. My dad was an Air Force officer, a man of great integrity and intelligence, and I admired him so much that I married a man very much like him, a graduate of the Naval Academy, and he was actually my high school sweetheart, and he served in the U.S. Marine Corps, and now we have a son who's a U.S. Marine Corps officer.
I think when you said we served, you were actually correct. My daughter is an Air Force wife, and so she has served in her own way.
I tell you, in the last decade, among all of the military families, they have served in amazing ways, and they've suffered with multiple deployments. And I think that's one of the things that the federal government needs to really pay attention to. We cannot destroy our military families because we don't have the personnel, and we have to keep reassigning people to multiple deployments with very little time at home.
It is tough. But some things that you do get out of that kind of background is really a broad view around the country. Is there some of the most interesting places that you lived, some recollection that you'd like to share?
Well, I lived on the Florida Panhandle, where they have the most beautiful beaches in the world. Washington, D.C. was where my formative years were. My dad was stationed at the Pentagon, and he went to Vietnam as a fighter pilot when I was 13. So my husband was a reservist in the Marine Corps and was called up for the Iraq War when our oldest son, was 13. So I really knew what it was like for him emotionally to have your dad leave and not know if he would ever come back. So fortunately, my dad did, but it has always given me a tremendous sense of honor and duty that we serve as we can. And so that's one of the reasons I'm running for U.S. Senate. I've been chairman of the Washington State Republican Party for almost 5 years, and I've really dedicated my life to serving the people of this state. Lived here for almost 4 decades.
Yes, and I know that you went on to some higher education after you got out of your high school sweetheart years.
Yes, I went to the University of Florida, and
the beaches drew you back.
Well, the Florida campus is right in the middle of this state. It's one of my favorite books growing up was The Yearling, and it's that scrub country of north central Florida. A beautiful story, a beautiful book, but that's where Gainesville is. And I'm real proud to be a Florida Gator. I run into Gators everywhere, even way out in this corner of the country. So, but yes, you're right. Being a military child and traveling a lot, you end up, it sort of makes or breaks you. And for me, it made me. I have the personality for campaigning. I love being with people. And so I find if I'm tired and I start campaigning, I get charged up. And that's one of the reasons why I think it's so sad that we have a candidate who I'm running against, the incumbent, Maria Cantwell, who just doesn't spend time here and doesn't meet her constituents. And it's frustrating to all of us that she's not paying attention to her constituents.
Well, you are certainly energized by being around people. I think that speaks also to your career,
Yes.
your primary career, which was in journalism and in media. and getting to meet a lot of people that way. Are there some kind of formative things that made you decide to get more active in politics once you left that career?
Well, Sulani, you are a great journalist. I know this. I read what you write.
Very sweet of you. Thank you.
And one of the most important characteristics of a journalist is curiosity. If you are curious, you will follow an idea and keep asking questions. And if you are a critical thinker, which I know you are, and hopefully all journalists are, you will pursue both sides until you come up with the answers, or you come up with an understanding that's close to the truth. And so I think that as a legislator in the U.S. Senate, I have the ability to sort of see a problem and then say, okay, solve it this way or solve it this way, and then keep asking questions, follow that curiosity to make the right decisions.
Okay, well, we've kind of touched on some of that final question we get to. What prompted you to get into politics, and what prompted you to volunteer for this particular elected office?
Well, one of the things, serving as the Washington State Republican Party chairman, I got to every county in the state multiple times, and I love the people of this state. I live in Seattle, which is a frustration that your viewers could understand. But I tell you, there are so many beautiful places in this state and the people to go with them. And I love Eastern Washington. I love Spokane. I got elected here. I ran for office in King County. I won the primary. And I really understand the role of politics, the way you win elections in this state, and that's why I felt it was time for me to challenge an incumbent who I don't believe deserves a fourth term.
Okay, well, that kind of answers the last question, but you still get that last minute to yourself. How do you see the duties of this elected office, and why should voters choose you?
Well, I've been in an executive position, meaning, the buck stops here, for a number of years. But this is a legislative position, which means you make laws. And again, as we were saying, I love people and I love solving problems for people. I see government, limited government, as a place where we have to make those decisions, where we serve people and we don't take the government power and use it to take away their own freedoms. So the bigger government gets, the less freedom we have as citizens. So we have to walk that fine line of providing those services, that protection that is essential at the federal level for all of our citizens, and make sure that we will serve them. And that is what I'm really looking forward to doing.
Okay, well, I thank you for joining us here in Spokane, and
thank you.
Safe travels around the state.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Meet the Candidate. Spokane Talks thanks our community-minded partners, Greater Spokane Incorporated, the Ponderosa Republican Women's Club, We Believe We Vote, and Better Spokane for helping make Meet the Candidate possible.